Temperature, temperature, temperature. Let's talk about temperature. Why temperature is so crucial on the inside of your baked bread, whether it's sourdough or just bread in general, so that you know when your bread is done without having to cut into it and experiment and then put it back in the oven. And so here's the whole kind of synopsis of what I'm going to talk about in this video. You got to remember, this is like a bag of dough, literally. Think of like a balloon of dough. And when you bake it, that balloon is expanding, and that structure in there, that spongy structure of all those little air bubbles that are now expanding, is going to continue to set even after you take your bread out of the oven. So the trick is to try to maintain that seal as best you can, so that after you take your bread out of the oven, the bread, literally now the bread or the baguette or whatever shape you made, has a chance to set, and that structure kind of becomes more stable, so that as you slice your bread, or if you want to do the pull method and tear away and eat it that way, it doesn't just collapse on you and fall apart. You want soft, you want pullable, right? Stretchy. You want that beautiful interior, sourdough interior. So here's how I do it. And everybody's different, but here's how I do it. What I do is when the bread is baking in the oven, if you saw the video kind of prior to this one, prior to maybe that one, 465 degrees Fahrenheit for give or take around 40 to 45 minutes is how I got my oven like perfect, symbiosis between the dough, the bread, the oven. You kind of get the idea. So while the bread is baking, after about 40 minutes, I'll go ahead and I'll check it. And what I do is I use one of these, right? This is the Thermo Pro. This is their, whatever this exact model is called. I'm not exactly sure. I'll put a link down below in the description and in the comments. But basically what I'm doing is I'm taking the temperature of the bread, right? And this thing is great, by the way. I use this thing for everything. Barbecuing, chicken, turkey, you name it. But what I'll do is I'll go ahead and take a temperature reading on the inside of the baking dough, or the inside of the baking bread. And what I do is I try to find, like when your bread is baking, right, you'll have this hard exterior shell on the outside, around the outside, but then usually where the ear develops, right, where it pulls apart so that the expansion can continue, and you're giving your bread a way to expand. Like, see, in this case, I didn't cut it enough. I didn't create a good enough ear. So that's why I had a blowout, right? A Brazilian blowout over here. I had a blowout because the dough had the expanding dough on the inside had nowhere to go. So it blew out the side. But typically either somewhere around the ear, or somewhere, like if you do have a blowout like this, you should be able to find a little soft spot. Oh, little soft spot. You should be able to find a little soft spot where you can put this probe in and insert it in there. I think this was actually the exact hole. There you go. So that was the exact hole. So I'm going to go ahead and shove this in there. And remember, while it's in the oven down on the middle rack, right? That's the one that I use, is the middle, like up and down the middle rack. While it's in there is where I usually do the temperature. If you have to take it out, if you have to take the whole thing out and put it onto your oven range, that's fine. Just time is of the essence. If you have to put it back in there, you want to do that quickly. But anyways, what I'm looking for is a temperature of 210 degrees. So this has now been, I'd say, at least a half an hour after I took this out of the oven. I'm still at 169, but I'm looking for 210 degrees. And then what I'll do is I'll take this out. Let's say I had hit 210 degrees right after I took the bread out. Then what I'll do is I'll just take it out of the oven entirely and then let it cool. Now I'm going to let it cool down and let that process of cooling down start. By the way, in case you're curious about the ramekin, yes, I do bake with a ramekin 3/4 of the way with water, just so that it can create that steamy environment in the oven, so that it helps to develop the crust. Right, you get that nice crunchy crust, but also the color. It kind of evenly caramelizes the outside of the dough to give that beautiful color. But anyways, talking about temperature, when I take the bread out, I'll take a temperature. If it's 210, great, I'm done. I can take the bread out. I know I'm cooked and all the good stuff. Some people use this method, right? The bamboo skewer or the wooden skewer or whatever. You can do the same thing. When you put your skewer in, or the same with the with the ThermoPro or the digital thermometer or whatever, what you're aiming for is you want to go in at like top to bottom. You want to be somewhere in the middle, and then also left to right, right? So like left to right, you want to be like somewhere in the middle of wherever or however you're putting this in. But if you do the bamboo skewer or the wooden skewer method, when you pull this out, actually, when you put it in there, leave it in there for like a second or two, and then go ahead and take it out. And when you take it out, it should come out clean. Like a lot of people say, like, make sure your bamboo skewer comes out clean. Like if you have like a speck or two, like that little speck right there, that's fine. But what you're checking for is you want to make sure that when you pull this out, this thing isn't covered in those little tiny specks or covered in like raw dough. That's what you don't want. Unless you want that. I don't know. That might be your spiel. But anyways, that's how you properly know when your bread is done. 210 degrees Fahrenheit, whatever that translates into Celsius, but 210 degrees Fahrenheit measured from the middle of the bread. That's how you know when your bread is done and you can take it out of the oven. Anyways, if you like what you're seeing, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I will put links to some of the stuff I've used in like these videos and other videos down there below in the description, also in the comments section. Also on my Amazon storefront, so make sure to check that out. Like the bread battens, you kind of get the idea. That'll all be down there in the description, comments, and also on the Amazon storefront. And I'll catch you all on the next exciting video.